Okay, now animating some of these images that you've made up, basically, you can basically drop movie files into Maya. Not movie files, but they have to be image sequences, in other words. So, for instance, this early unicycle render that I rendered out early in the class period, I rendered out in a sequence, and it gave it these 001, 002, 003, 004. That's an image sequence, basically. So if I were to want to say add this movie file, however, whenever I rendered it out from a movie, or any kind of how you wanted to. So if you have like a movie file that you wanted to um, add to it, you would need to drop it basically into After Effects or a program like that and render it out as a JPEG sequence of some sort. And I'll let you do that on your own, basically, because this is what you'll be rendering out and putting into After Effects. You can kind of figure that out. It's pretty easy. You just need to make sure to organize everything where everything is at. Say if I were copying like a walk cycle or something to this, and I wanted to kind of trace it or see it and play in the background. Now these images basically are, if I look at them, they're 960 by 540, so they're like a 1280, 720, 16 by 9 ratio. I'm not really worried about that with this, so I'm just going to add that file to this movie here and see what happens. I'm going to assign a new material. Just going to add a Lambert. Go to my color. Go to my file. I'm going to go to my folder. And it's in my occlusion folder here. Whole list of pictures come up there. You need to go to number 1, your first one, and select it. And these things are all labeled correctly. That's the name of the image, a dot, then 001, 002, 003, so forth. And I'm just going to open the first one, and then down here I'm going to select the image sequence. And it adds an expression basically down here. So I'm going to press 6 so I can see it. And see it's stretched from what it is because this panel that I created, this plane that I created, didn't match the coordinates. So I'm just, if you look at it in your UV editor, you can see how you kind of need to stretch the polygons out to kind of match it. Or I could have textured it to begin with and mapped it out to begin with to get the exact measurement of what it's going to be. So now if you basically play the timeline, those image sequences for every single one of these images becomes one of the frames, in other words. And you can play this. You can change the frame rate of it. So if you have a TV in the background or something of one of your cartoons and you have like a movie you want to go ahead and drop on that, those images will come basically render out every single image. So if this was a TV and I wanted it to play for 30 seconds, it's going to render exactly everything on that right there. Like a TV playing in the background. If I had a model going. So you can actually take these images and use key drivers, use these attributes here, and actually break the expression on them. So therefore you basically are using every single image as it's not framed in there anymore. It's basically driven by an attribute over here to where like you can kind of key that on your own like that. I'll show you how to do that. So I've got this plane here. And that's all this is right here, is this plane. It's on TV. I could have made the this part of it, but I would have had to create my image, my image map. Whenever I created my image, I didn't have any kind of size. I just created a 1280 picture I just slapped on a plane. But if I were going to create a surrounding texture for the actual model itself, I would have UV mapped this box. I would have UV mapped this box like this. Save this screenshot right here. Brought it into Photoshop and created my face in that box right there. But I'm not doing that. I'm just using a plane to show you how this works. I'm going to bring it up here like this. So what I did is I went and created 3 images that I want to use for my SAD, and I did it basically all out of this one. I just saved that as a JPEG, then I went in here and I moved these rectangles around to create my calm face. Save that as a JPEG, then I made a happy face. Save that as a JPEG. Let me find the folder and I'll show you exactly how I named them too. So I named them all the same thing. I put a dot, then I put 3 zeros, 1 for my happy, for my calm is in between, and then my 3. And the reason I did that is because instead of just switching from a sad face or a happy face to a sad face, I wanted like an in between. And I'll link a tutorial for this, basically, that's not this one, but I just took it a step further so I could have like a little smooth transition, or I can just go animate from there to there, key it from there to there. But this is my naming convention, just 3 images. So what I'll do is I'll add a new material, Lambert. I'll do it the same way as loading an image sequence file. I'll select the first one. I'm going to I want that at 0, but it's okay. So basically when it comes in now, I need to click image sequence, so that way it adds an expression basically on it to go ahead and 1 frame, 2 frame, 3 frame. So now if I just let that play, basically it's just going to play those 3 frames on that and then disappear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this expression. Delete expression. I'm going to keep the image sequence though, so I'll be able to reach those images. I'm going to go over to my plane and I'm going to add an attribute. I'm going to title it face. I'm going to go to enum. That way these enum names come up. So I'm not giving it a value. Basically, I'm just, because I want each single frame to have a name. So I'm going to select this green here. It comes with green and blue already, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to change them. My first one is happy. Press enter. Do blue. The next one is calm. Press enter. We'll go down here and I'm going to add another one, sad. Press enter. Let's go add. So I close that out. So now when I select the plane, and you can add a controller and do this to the controller if you want to, but I'm just doing it to the plane. So now if you click that and you middle mouse key and you scroll to the right, you get calm, sad, happy, but nothing happens because you need to go in and set these keys in here. So we're going to go back to our texture. Into the color. Delete the expression again. And I am going to set driven key. Remember, I need a driver. My driver is going to be my plane. It's selected. Load driver. My face is my attribute that's going to be driving it. The frame extension, I need to make sure this right here is on happy because it's in the happy position, and that's what I want it to be first. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to make sure it's happy. Frame extension, if you click that right there, you need to make sure the frame extension is on 1. So we're on 1, that's frame 1. I'm going to key that. That should be my happy. Now I'm going to go back to my plane. I'm going to switch it to my calm. I'm going to go back to file, select this, go back to my frame extension 2. I'm going to key that. So now should be able to select this and at least scroll happy to calm. Now I want to add that one more on there. So I'm going to go to my plane. I'm going to go ahead and find my sad. Hit my file 2 and I'm going to go to my frame extension 3 because I know it was on the 3rd frame. And I'm going to select that and I'm going to key that. So now if I close this out, and you select your frame up here, your plane, excuse me, and you have this attribute right here, you should be able to scroll just sad, calm, happy, however you want it to. So like he begins happy, I'm going to key that, S. Go to calm. Actually, I'm going to sad. If you notice, it's not really a smooth transition simply because you only had one frame for the image to call it on, so it doesn't actually switch to that exact frame, which is why I created an in-between image to kind of get me there. Get him calm, press S. Talking or however you wanted to do it. And you can do this with the eye expressions and everything. So to me this seems like a really fun way, because I love using sliders and stuff over here whenever I'm animating. And like I said, if you were just using a box, you just wanted to slap the entire texture on a box, the only thing you've got to remember is that whenever you create this image in Photoshop or wherever you create it in Photoshop at, this needs to be text, this needs to be a UV map on it, and you need to save this screenshot for this template. And so whenever you bring it into Photoshop, that template, and you put that face right there and save every single one of those images with that face down below and the rest of the texture on the actual box itself. So I hope this helps for some of you that want to make texture images. And you don't have to use the plane, basically add the attribute to the plane, because the only thing about that is now I have to have this thing selected to be able to move this thing. Maybe I should have had a controller over here and listed it, face control, and drove the images with the face control, making the face control the images, the driver. So okay, so yeah, have fun with that. Got any questions? Reach out.